I want to talk about fear. And this is because there's been so many people around me that have anxiety or fear-based conditions like paranoia, negative thinking, everything that's not healthy. I was just sitting there thinking like how much life is getting wasted by having fear consume their mind. Life is so short, and the amount of people that are spending days on end, weeks, maybe years in a fear-based state is not how life was meant to be lived at all. Now, fear can be healthy. It's programmed into your nervous system and it gives you the survival instincts that you need to keep yourself safe from any sorts of danger. That's the purpose it's supposed to serve. It's just we're starting to use fear really wrong, and it's taking over and it's taking control. So fear's unhealthy when it makes you more cautious than you really need to be to stay safe, and when it prevents you from doing things that you would otherwise enjoy. Why fear? Why that emotion? We have so many other emotions. Why is that one taking control of so many people? This is episode 134. Welcome to the Voice Notes series, my most personal series yet. This is where I share one of my own personal voice notes on my phone with you, hopefully to inspire you to make a change for the better as well. Hello and welcome back to the Voice Notes series. Today, I want to talk about fear. And this is because there's been so many people around me that have anxiety or fear-based conditions like paranoia, negative thinking, everything that's not healthy, right? And yeah, I was having a reflection. Wherever I was in my voice note today, you'll hear it. But I was just sitting there thinking like how much life is getting wasted by having fear consume their mind. Life is so short. The life expectancy for most people is around 80 years of age. And the amount of people that are spending days on end, weeks, maybe years in a fear-based state is not how life was meant to be lived at all. Now, fear can be healthy. It's programmed into your nervous system and it gives you the survival instincts that you need to keep yourself safe from any sorts of danger. So you can think back now to any sort of situation where it was dangerous and you can sort of think like, oh, wow, yep, my instincts kicked in and my fear kicked in, because that's the purpose it's supposed to serve. It's just we're starting to use fear really wrong. And it's taking over and it's taking control. Like, I wish we used happiness wrong. I wish that more people were controlled by happiness instead of fear. And that's what I wanted to delve into today. Like, why fear? Why that emotion? You know, we have so many other emotions. Why is that one taking control of so many people? So fear's unhealthy when it makes you more cautious than you really need to be to stay safe, and when it prevents you from doing things that you would otherwise enjoy. Fear has so many effects as well in our body, which I'll go through. There's a study that I want to read to you. It does nothing good, guys. So if fear is controlling your life, get help, ask for help, sort it out, figure out what to do. I work on this a lot with clients that have anxiety. I just feel so sorry for them. I hate that they wake up being controlled by fear. It's not how we're meant to live. Wake up, be controlled by happiness and optimism and positivity. It's so bizarre that so much time is getting wasted on such a negative thing. Do you know what I mean? Let me go and look at this study that I want to read to you. It was from the 2017 Neuroscience Education Institute Congress. And it was saying that fear is a feeling that is internal and is conscious, and it arises when sensory systems in the brain have determined an external stimulus poses as a threat. And then what I think is like, why do you think like that? I believe that there's reasons, maybe root causes that we can dive into that maybe we can separate. And then you realize that actually, you know what? Not everything needs to be a threat. This doesn't need to be a threat. This is my paranoid thought. This is my fear-based thought, whatever it is. So outputs of threat detection circuits trigger a general increase in brain arousal and can result in altered threat processing, which is fear and anxiety disorders. I'm sure you know someone that has anxiety. I'm sure you know someone that has said, "Oh my gosh, I have anxiety." So I try to remove that word as much as I can from my vocabulary because I can see how much is controlling people, and I try to use opposite words: happiness, peace, calm, free. So let me just talk about the 3 predictable stages the body uses to respond to stressors called the general adaptation syndrome. And this is from a doctor, Dr. Moller. Number 1 is the alarm. So the first reaction to stress recognizes that there's a danger and prepares to deal with the threat. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, HPA, axis and autonomic nervous system are activated. Fight or flight. Primary stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, and non-adrenaline are released. So that's when you really start to feel the fear. That's the alarm, okay? Number 2, the resistance stage. Homeostasis begins restoring balance, and a period of recovery for repair and renewal takes place. Stress hormones may return to normal, but there may be reduced defenses and adaptive energy left. Then there's stage 3, which is exhaustion. At this phase, the stress has continued for some time. The body's ability to resist is lost because its adaptation energy supply is gone. And this is often referred to as things like burnout, overload, adrenal fatigue, maladaptation, or dysfunction. So alterations to the HPA axis can cause several conditions such as chronic pain, fibromyalgia, insulin resistance, says Dr. Moller. Crazy, right? Listen to this, it gets even better. Moller then outlined the potential consequences of fear on overall physical, emotional, environmental, and spiritual health. The potential effects of chronic fear on overall health include immune system dysfunction, endocrine system dysfunction, autonomic nervous system alterations, a sleep-wake cycle disruption, eating disorders, alterations in hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis in the brain. So the potential effects of chronic fear on physical health includes things like headaches turning into migraines, muscle aches turning into fibromyalgia, body aches turning into chronic pain, and difficulty breathing turning into asthma, said Dr. Moller. So the potential effects of chronic fear on emotional health include dissociation from yourself, unable to have loving feelings, learned helplessness. So you're always feeling in a state of helplessness. Why me? Always something wrong. Phobic anxiety, mood swings up and down, and obsessive compulsive thoughts. It's crazy to think how much fear can consume you. It's just bizarre that your life can be spent in such a negative space with your bullshit stories that run around and around and around in your head, which just make you miserable. I hate it so much. I hate it so much because I hate that people sit and suffer and then their life is not as fulfilling as it should be. The potential consequences of chronic fear on environmental health include things like continued living in fear-generating situations due to uncertainty of moving out and unknown associated dangers, not able to find safe housing, afraid to leave home because of paranoia. I have a friend who's so paranoid about everything, where they just make up stories in their head and believe them to be true. And it's so exhausting to live and to witness that and to have to be there to try to dispel the narrative that's going on in the head, which is absolute and utter nonsense. It's crazy. The potential consequences of chronic fear on spiritual health. These can be things like bitterness or a fear towards God or others, confusion or disgust with God or religion, loss of trust in God, waiting for God to fix it, and despair related to perceived loss of spirituality. Fear also affects the ability to learn. So the brain's capacity to retrieve previous learning is dependent on specific chemical states in the brain. Chemical alterations can also distort perception of sensory information, therefore distorting the storage. So when your brain, guys, is hyper-aroused, storage may be incomplete and new information will be stored in non-verbal memory. This is what Moller says. And this distorts the storage of sensory input, and the retrieval of information will be affected. And that's what I wanted to read you from that study today on the effects of chronic fear on a person's health. And I want you to become mindful of if you're using fear wrong, okay? It's supposed to be there to help us in times of danger, okay? If it's controlling your life, please, please, please do yourself and your loved ones and everyone around you a favor, mainly for yourself, and go and find your freedom. Go and work with therapists, psychologists, even coaches, and work on your fear. You don't deserve to be living in a fear-based state every day. You should be happy. You should be feeling free. You should be feeling peaceful. And if you're not, and those emotions aren't present, then something is wrong. You deserve to be truly free. Here's my voice note. Fear should just be used for its intended purpose, fight or flight in a threatening situation. Overusing your fear muscle can lead to things like anxiety and overthinking, negative thinking. Fear is something that we need as humans just to protect us in a threatening situation. And once you grasp your head around that, then you realize, I've been living with fear for so long and I've been using it wrong. And then start to retrain your brain in how to use fear more effectively, and that way you'll cause less suffering in your own mind. I hope you enjoy the show today. Remember, you can jump on my Instagram to let me know your thoughts on my podcast show. I would love to see it. And if you have a moment, please share a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts so that we can help move the show along together. If you share a review, please send me a screenshot of it so that I can send you a thank you gift. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode. I'll see you next week for next week's episode. Bye.